having that income. So there's a reason why I start with income. Income is so powerful in retirement, and that's what gives you peace of mind. And I'm not saying that because I read it. I'm saying that because I've witnessed it. I know the power of having an income that you can absolutely rely on. It is powerful, especially as you age. So when you have an individual, a retiree that's 80 years old and living in the same home they've been living in for decades, and they have that income and they know for sure it is coming every single month. It doesn't matter what's happening in the news. It doesn't matter what's happening in the economy, in the stock market. It doesn't, none of that matters, because they can rely on that income and they can have peace of mind. And that, if right now at your age, it's probably like, yeah, this is awesome. Well, but the older you get, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for some of the folks though, when if there's a higher inflation and things, and they're on a fixed income, this could be a problem, right?
Yeah, so let's get into that, because what are the things with income? What can go wrong? So right now we're going to focus on step 1 of the process, which is the income plan. What can go wrong with income in retirement? Just to finish what I was saying about age really starts to matter when it comes to how much stress you have. Okay, so if someone's 55 and they are not sure where their income's going to come from, there's a bigger chance that they could go back into the workforce. They can find other opportunities. But as you age, it becomes less and less likely, and the stress takes more and more of a toll on your body. So the things that you worry about actually affect your health greater than they do when they're younger. And that's something that I think a lot of financial advisors don't really get their head around. But because I've seen it, it really is important to me that, hey, the income plan that we're making is not temporary. This is something that I want to make sure that 20, 30 years from now,
and so the
you're going to be okay.
You are, the earlier you start your retirement plan,
yes,
the less.
Time is one of the most valuable assets that you have, that you probably may or may not take for granted, but time is so valuable. So absolutely. This is a quote from Nerd Wallet. Of course, the phrase running out of money is somewhat misleading. Think about this. That it's running out of money is somewhat misleading. The vast majority of U.S. retirees receive Social Security benefits, which continue for life. So while they may run through their savings and run short of money in that way, they can't truly run out of money. But remember what I said about the fear? 47% of Americans surveyed don't believe that. Why? Because they don't think that Social Security is reliable for them. They don't know for sure that it's going to be there forever. So now it's even more important to plan your own income. And when we have a lot of business owners that listen, making sure that you're working that income strategy, that you have to create your own pension. So here are some of the other things. Inflation, you brought up. Inflation is huge. We work through a program called Retirement Analyzer, which is a software that we use that's like this big calculator, and inflation is a big portion of that.
Everything's in the calculator.
Everything. It makes us look very smart, but it does all of the calculating, and we input all of the data, and then it gives us basically a spreadsheet of what your retirement years are going to look like, how it's going to be affected. There's projections, obviously, but how is inflation going to affect the money that you're receiving? Your expenses today?
We were just sitting with a potential client just the other day, and he was under the impression that about $3,000 of income would be good for him throughout his retirement. And we sat down, plugged in all his figures for his budget.
We do analysis, a very...
And he was off.
Precise, he was.
By about $2,000 at least.
A precise expense sheet.
And people forget an annual cost many times.
Yeah.
Like that they pay maybe once a year.
And why is budgeting so important? But having a really, really detailed view, a snapshot of your budget is really important, because that is how we determine what your income need is going to be in retirement. And we take those numbers and we hedge those against inflation, and we say, hey, yeah, $3,000 sounds like a lot, but actually you're actually spending more than you think you're spending every month. And that's just to keep the lights on and your car running up and down the road, just basic expenses. And then when you start to project it and you look at what it could possibly be 20 years from now, it's 8,000. So it goes up, and what things cost 20 years ago are not what they cost today. So inflation is such a huge part of the plan, and it's such a huge part of the process when we're designing an income plan. And that starts with a really detailed budget. Taxation and it is a part of it too, simply because the way you receive income affects how you're taxed. And it doesn't just mean how much money did I get, but is it from an IRA? Did it come from a Roth? Did it come from the sale of a house? Is it rental income? There's all these different types of income that come in retirement. It's not just a pay stub, So taxation affects all of these other things, including Social Security and including Medicare premiums, believe it or not. So we have to take those things into account. Going into business income. What if you're relying on business income and then you start to age, or something happens and you're not able to maybe maintain your rental properties or participate in the business like you did? So these are things that might not be reliable for life. Maybe we can count on them for the first 10 years of retirement. Maybe we can't. Maybe we can count on it forever, but it's something that we really want to have control and understanding of. The other thing is death of a spouse. These are things that can go wrong when you're making an income plan. If you have two people who are contributing to the household with their Social Security, with their pensions.
Well, like you were mentioning, for military retirees, they have the survivor's benefit plan, which is an annuity that you have. If you don't plan, because the military is not, you may have been with your spouse for your whole life and through that military career, and if you don't plan, choose the SBP to continue a stream of income for your spouse, and other pension plans work similarly. Then, do you want your wife and your family to continue to have the same standard of living that they have while you're alive, or do you want that to change?
So we call that spousal continuation planning, and making sure that if something happens to one person, the other person is going to be set. My rule of thumb is, and I don't want it to pull on my heartstrings because I just lost a really dear friend at 52, but so I don't want to cry. I want to avoid that. If I tear up, you know why. It's really important that if something happens, that the other person is able to maintain their standard of living for at least the first year. It's so big because there has to be this grieving period. So whenever I meet with someone who's just lost a spouse, I really try to get them to just kind of pause if they can afford to. If they can afford to just stay the course for the first 12 months and really focus on healing and go through the grieving process, which is such an emotional roller coaster anyways, then they're way less likely to make decisions that might end up being tragic in the long run.
It's the psychological profile tells you that when you've had one major life decision or circumstance, you shouldn't make another.
Right, and
within a year.
Unfortunately, though, they become prey.
Cash in investments. Nah.
You can become prey when you become a widow. You can become prey to people who see an opportunity. They want to help you.
Unfortunately, but that could even be family in some instances.
Right. So it's really important if you are able to just stay the course, just say, I don't want to make any changes until next year. Next year, the year later, you will have more stability in your mind. You'll have more strength. You'll be less vulnerable and less likely to be taken advantage of. So anyways. And
while we're talking about the income planning,
we kind of got off track there, but income planning is just, it is so powerful, and it's so important when it comes to maintaining a really awesome retirement and living your best years, in retirement. So let's talk about, because Frank started touching on what I call guaranteed income. There's certain certain income strategies that are 100% guaranteed for life. They don't end until you pass away. And even then, if you make the spousal continuation planning a part of that, even your spouse will receive a portion of or the full benefit that you're receiving. So what am I talking about? Social Security is one of those streams of income. The thing about these types, though, is that there's no cash value. Zero cash value. So once it's income only, Social Security, then also a pension, zero cash value, but you get it as long as you live. And then if something happens to you, your spouse can, again, get a portion of that. And
if
then
prepared adequately.
Yes. And then another thing is one type of annuity, which really funds the pension, which is called a single premium annuity, also known as a SPIA. Okay. Now, pension, the way the SPIA works is the way a lot of people think that annuities only work, which in the old days, yes, this is the only way they worked. You gave them a lump sum of money. In return, they give you an income for life. And that's it, though. It's income only. And then when you pass away, guess what? You don't get that money back. There's no cash value. So if you you start out on the track and you die 2 years later, you could have significant loss. But that's not the only type of annuity. So I want to clarify that myth. However, there is one type that's exactly how it works. There's zero cash value. And that's what we're talking about now. But the good thing about those is that they are guaranteed for life. You can have that peace of mind. And a lot of times you can, the point of it is that you could get a higher monthly income because you are giving up that cash value.
A benefit for the survivor's benefit plan for military members, if you have folks out there that are that way, is in the military, they will take that premium from your pay. It comes out automatically, and it's pre-tax, which is it won't be taxed. You know, they're going to take out the premium and then tax your benefit.
Yeah,
so
and
that's just an additional cost reduction.
Yeah, and even with all of your streams of income, taxation again is a huge portion of it, because where that money comes from is overall going to determine how your tax plan works, and we're going to segue into that. The one thing I did want to mention, though, is with pensions. Pensions are becoming a thing of the past because they're so expensive for the employer to keep up.
Even in the military, they've reduced, like I was explaining, from 50% of your base pay at 20 years to 40%, but they're, matching now.
And it's happening in companies all over the United States because they're all, at the end of the day, it's a business. They have to make these decisions, whether it's governmental or whether it's private, it still is being impacted. And this is a quote from CNN Money, because defined benefit plans, which is AKA a pension, defined benefit plans are most costly for employers than defined contribution plans, which would be like your 401ks, your 403b, your 457, those type of contribution plans where you're making a contribution as well. So the defined benefit plan or the pension is more costly for the employer, but most of them, you guessed it, scaled back dramatically or eliminated these plans altogether in recent years. So if you do have a defined benefit plan or a pension, you're lucky. You definitely should consider yourself lucky.
State employees, oftentimes, and government employees are some of the industry or areas in the economy that still see those type of pensions, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even that is slowly coming to pass. And they're very blessed to have that. That's one reason some of them go that direction, because you know the benefits. That's what they say. Oh, that's a great career. They have great benefits. Well, if a pension is certainly a good benefit. So now from the income perspective, so we've been talking about the income plan, and I think I got a little ahead here.